vacation. But yeah, there was an idea I felt sharing, and about the talks and what's going to happen to them. I will write down updates, but their numbers are going to reduce at least, or I'm trying to aim for that for some time. Anyways, to begin tonight's episode. And I have a better microphone, so this should be helpful as well. To be honest, I have this feeling about everything that for a while I can't put into words, but it's as if life has come to a point where the synchronization of the effort of the mind and body are becoming important. And I noticed that there was an idea I haven't spoken into, and today I saw it in my inner realms, and I was deciding, should I let this pass? Because the reason I took the break from the talks was it was my a bit of discomfort in my throat, you know. But I decided to change the pace. So, and that what I saw in my inner realms about when minds step into the ultimate presence, it occurred to me that we are trying to articulate truth. What that means is we are treating truth like a noun, and as a verb, we are trying to comprehend it. So it's like noun, verb, noun, or verb, noun, verb. This is an important distinction. This type of civilization we're living in, it requires, for now at least, to treat people like nouns. It doesn't have the sophistication to treat people like verbs, and it's very difficult to treat someone like a verb because it means you can't see a shape, they're always changing. And it's difficult if you want a specific result. In this world, believe it or not, if you don't want something, it goes out of your attention. That means things become easy when you don't want them. There's nothing being given off, or no waves being given off from the brain. Do you know? It's as if, imagine a person's desires, they are code. They are code inputted into the environment. And I totally forgot to unmute the desktop audio, so 2 minutes, there should have been music, but anyways. Yeah. Verb, noun, verb, noun, verb, noun. I thought, what does it mean if I'm a verb and this life is a noun? And am I gonna go back to being a verb? The title, When Minds Step into the Ultimate Presence, is a suggestion that all efforts of human knowledge so far have been in the wrong direction. There is something the say it this way, that we consider that the human being requires freedom and universal freedom. And this universal freedom means you have a free body, you can move your physical body around, but now to have a free mind. To have a free mind doesn't just mean the body is satisfied. It means something watching the body requires a satisfaction. And this is where our yawning comes. That means that this is where nostalgia and all those emotions of a distant glow, like of the remembrance of the ancient home, it's like various ways. But the body and the mind, if we implement the same strategy, if I implement the strategy I'm applying for my body to my mind, my body needs to take, let's say, survive in the environment. It needs to have a relationship of course, nowadays with tribalism, it has moved beyond just taking, and it's synchronization, but of giving and taking. But the ancient mind had to take because the world was an all-you-can-eat buffet, untouched. The future mind has changed the meals of the buffet so many times. It will change, right? That finding memory, we don't understand it now, but I feel the future generations will understand it better than we ever could. But it's that in the future, just like how you find treasure, imagine like you're digging a tunnel in a cave, and then you suddenly, the wall breaks and you see inside the tunnel was like this giant opening, right? So it's like it was like wall, oh my god, a giant room. Thanks for letting me know. It seems my voice isn't loud enough. Guys, if I bring the microphone closer, it's gonna literally, make contact with my face. No, I'm joking. It's not that close. It should be better. Or I can reduce the sound of the music more. Maybe then people, if they raise their whole volume. Okay. Anyways, specific questions are welcomed in the chat section. Tell me the context you're asking your question and I can answer. So James says, okay, James says, explain what you're saying. Okay, so if you go in the description of the video, channel, in the about section, it's a philosophy podcast, and in this philosophy podcast is pretty much I'm a human being that's decided to attend 10,000 talks, to give 10,000 talks in this lifetime, and I'm just sharing that with the public, and I felt the best way to suggest that as a philosophy podcast. Anyways, the whole point of communication is mystery. So James, I won't give you too much of an answer. You gotta listen to the talks and maybe you'll figure out what I'm saying. Anyways, back to the topic. Guys, I just realized so I don't lose concentration, if you have questions about what I'm talking about, like at the moment, feel free to share. If it's questions that don't relate to the topic or what I'm discussing in that moment, please keep it for the end, and I will combat your questions. Anyways, back to the topic. When the mind steps into the ultimate presence, maybe I should explain this word, and then people will understand what I'm talking about. I am wondering what's going on in this world, and all I have seen is attempts. Okay, guys, I'll fix the volume. I know what to do. And if this doesn't work, then maybe I should return to the void. Okay, so this should be better. Hopefully it is. The word mysticism is crucial to explore. Mysticism is the exploration of that which is the living unknown. And philosophers are not here to give answers, and understanding is such a big topic, ontology, and how even language is a part of our lives. You see, I'm just a human being. I'm not a machine. All I can communicate is what I perceive, what is accessible to my perception. But it's just that while living as a human being here, I have noticed that there's two films going on. One film is the body's life. Another film is the mind's life. Now, ancient mysticism gave a very big clue to this riddle of the world. It said, for example, in the Upanishads, there's a very important statement. That statement is, the seer of the seen is unseen. What that means is there is something unknown about human intelligence, in the sense that a mind is required to know that you are a body is required to project a mind. Now, on a rock in the middle of nowhere, take this in, and James in the chat section, I want you to take in what I'm saying. On a rock in the middle of nowhere, 8 billion creatures are here. I am trying to find the ethos of the future in these talks. Because the world is, as Ludwig Wittgenstein says, the limits of my world are the limits of my language are the limits of my world. Our comprehension of what the world is the movement of language in an energetic presence that is noticing it. So James, in the chat section, I encourage you at the end of it to come on Discord, then in person you can ask me the question. Or yeah, that's a solution as well. You see, back in the day, there was even this idea of the polymath. The polymath was not fragmented in psychology, because when you look at the educational system, all the branches are different, right? So if knowledge was seen as a tree, the educational system doesn't know about the trunk, is ignoring the trunk of knowledge, and is ignoring roots hidden beyond soil we can't see. So in some sense, I'm saying that back in the day, human beings were not thinking of ideological identity. They weren't thinking on being this or that. They were just human beings that were in a world. Their eyes had opened and they had wonder. They had curiosity. They were pretty much an explorer at heart. Now, if you have this explorer's mentality, it's like when you explore mathematics, you're not a mathematician. You're an explorer of mathematics. Do you see, when you go to science, you're an explorer of it, so it becomes as if on one level there is something. You know what it is, the polymath. Like, this is an example of, for example, Da Vinci was a polymath, Rabindranath Tagore was a polymath, a bunch of other people in history were polymaths, you know. So and the fascination of that was, instead of being look at this person, he can do so many things in different ways. It was, this person is one being in many moments. You see the difference? You see, the greatest thing a speaker can do in this world is to say, hey, look beyond words. What else is there? And that response, the response to that statement, there is a gap. I noticed this gap. I noticed a gap, something missing in civilization, something that was like a chess move. Imagine somebody playing chess and you suddenly see the move, right? And that was communication. Just this word. I can't tell you, this word communication is the divinity in the room. In mysticism and also philosophy, if the whole world was known, there would be no reason to ask a question. Philosophy keeps the balance 50-50 unknown, but the continental philosophers more inclined towards the unknown, and the analytical philosophers more inclined to the known. The analytical philosophers won that battle, and it's been so long that in some sense, I could tell you, it's like the analytical philosophers exiled the continental philosophers from the kingdom of of universities on this planet. For me, in my youth, I got introduced to religious ideology. You had to even understand the society, you know. But then I got introduced to metaphysical ideology, but I did not care for the metaphysics at first. In my youth, it was like the mind was a mystery. It's like before understanding your mind, how can you even wonder about the soul? Do you know? And I remember there was also, like, life is so hilarious how it works, you know. Like, I was born in a family where on the bookshelf of my house there was a book called Body, Mind, Body, and Spirit. Now, the hilarious thing was, the cover of this book was knit upside down on the text. Do you know? So the book printers had messed up the book, flipped it upside down. But that title of that book, and just that book being upside down, made me remember it strangely. Do you know? And that notion of mind, body, spirit, that sort of 3 levels to intelligence was there, right? So when anything would happen, I would have a sense of, okay, I am a soul, you know, and it's body, mind, body, mind, body, mind. Why? Because the mind, when you sleep, is absent. So it's as if, wait a minute, what am I when I'm in deep sleep? Right? You're not an ideological entity, yet existence continues way beyond our ideas. Now, the title is kind of calling me, and I'm going to speak about how the vision at the beginning, I pointed to it in my I saw this vision that right now we have a fear of still being an individual on this planet. But in my inner realms, I saw in the future that fear will go away. And think of it this way. We know our body, so we're interested in the mind. As if we know, imagine the body was a 2-dimensional thing, the mind is 3-dimensional. So we are, because we're stationed in the 3-dimensional viewer, let's just, for example's sake, I'm saying I could use 4, 5, 6, or whatever. So it's as if we are content with the body. that's why we are functioning as minds. Now the mind is wondering, what am I beyond myself? This is an okay question. You know, they say there's no stupid questions, but then they have prejudice on context. Modern society is a strange soup of ideological acceptance based on who. Like, honestly, when we realize we're on a rock in the void, every person's declaration has a value when it comes to the void, right? It's not that speech is truth, but it's that there is something being in order for there to be expression, and this is sacred law. And those beings who wake up remembering this, they dodge bullets in the realm karmically. Why? Because law means, this may sound strange, but think of it as if there is a law to your mind, and the laws that you require to be aware of to govern the mind are very different than the laws required to govern the body. Now, what is the mind? The mind is a division, and I'm saying this for secular audiences, between an arbitrary force, a subject moving an object, and an object mindlessly being a subject. Can you just fathom just the notion of the mind? You know, and in Zen they have an approach, in Vedanta they have an approach. You know, there's a bunch of modern religions that they have strange metaphysics. You know, and so reality ultimately is seeking to surpass itself. What that means is it's not just truth we're seeking. It's strangely the snake constantly letting go of its skin, as a nature's example to you. You know, like as if change is like a higher dimensional command. You know? To continue, and there will be breaks in the middle, guys, so I catch my breath. Where I'm going with this is that the mind is unknown, the body is known. We have built civilization based on known variables. In any, let's say, process of thinking or way of a person thinking, their thoughts are limited to what is found in the visible universe. Okay, that means, for example, this is the hilarious thing. Imagine you're ordering pizza for, let's say, 10 people, and there is suddenly you're about to place the order, and a bunch of other people come in, right? And so someone comes and says, hey man, you know, what happened with your logic, right? And so it was as if logic was limited to the unknown variable's entrance into the conscious domain. That means we can try to be rational creatures, but we cannot control, as Sadhguru, this sage says, this mystic says, the content of your mind is not your choice. So that means you can choose to be a certain modality of a human being. but there is so many unknown variables in life that if you don't keep it 50-50, there is a burden. It has to, like, I feel a healthy civilization is 50%, we don't know, 50% known, to a point where educational systems have this branch of known studies and unknown studies, and imagination is welcomed for the first time. Not banished, not exiled, but imagination is welcomed as an explorer of the civilization, because ultimately the whole point of a system, okay, is either to maintain or to end. Either maintain or endlessly to create, right? I feel in the future, the concept of transcendence in a natural way would be a sort of not sacrificing what you are, not renouncing per se, not hard working towards it. It's one of those things where when you notice it's a universe that is alive, then it becomes something to communicate. That means the religious archetype, it's a one-sided communication. But the esoteric, or let's say the spiritual, that notion, the metaphysical, the metaphysically animate, perhaps a proper word for it would be reunion. A sort of, it's like a square, rejecting how it's a cube in another dimension. And so what word can you give a square, remembering, realizing it's a cube? Now imagine 8 billion squares that have been building a civilization for squares, and the continuity of squares suddenly realized they were cubes. Do you know what implication that would have to culture? It would literally be like you looking at a one-story house, suddenly like stories just piling up, literally, like as if like a higher dimensional being is building skyscrapers like Lego. Do you know what I mean? There's a mystery to our world that language is not a good enough resolve to. That opens up an experiential domain, and the relationship we have, we call it human. We take pride and glory into being a human being. But if we identified not first with the human idea, but with how we're just being, how everybody, regardless of their thoughts, beliefs, ideas, and how they even conceptually interpret their own emotions, there is a great silence behind every word, concept, and sound you have ever heard. The ears know the truth before the mouth has spoken. Those who, in some sense, believe it or not, this is going to be, I personally feel I'm putting everything on the table, but listening to your ears. We are projecting, simulating type of creatures. simulate meaning. It's like I have seen this happen too many times when somebody's speaking, you interrupt them and the person gets angry. Why? Because they have to begin again. But why do they have to begin again? Because when people communicate, they are communicating in front of their own intelligence, right? So when a person fails, they fail in front of themselves too, not just in front of others. So I have had moments where this was when I was young and my silliness had not understood the nature of the cruel world yet, you know. But imagine watching, imagine realizing that what memory is how awareness has been watching its content. That means sometimes I feel like, oh my god, this whole thing about the inner realms and the outer realms, it's like a sphere, and we're inside the sphere, and inside the walls of the sphere we have painted with our own language. And unless the center of the past truth goes beyond the sphere, and it's like our truths expanded when we went beyond the atmosphere, you know. That's how Hubble telescope, you know, took the temperature of the universe, and we realized the fever began. What is it like? When there was a bang. Ultimately, there's an effort, right? We are like creatures contained in a physical substance, in a material substance, in a physical phenomena, and this physical phenomena is noticing it's physical in a non-physical phenomena, right? So our minds are kind of like projecting another version of the world, or overlaying it's the inner film is overlaying itself on the outer film, and as mistakes or whatever, there's turbulence as the pilot flies into the skies of unknown, the pilot of consciousness. First we will advance the bodies of mankind. Then we will advance the minds of mankind, of the advanced civilization. And then when it comes to the soul is self-mastery, but it's when the universe masters itself through us. We don't become masters of the universe. I don't know what kind of divine ego that is, but this universe is not something you can master. It's something you can understand, though, because you're standing under an endless sky. I mean, take that in. Take that in, that we are like, we can't tell if life is a dream or not because of how much it's in the middle of nowhere. That means look at the word nowhere, put a space between the W and H, and you will see the linguistic simulation. Now here is the inner realm overlay over nowhere. So, dear listeners, Buckminster Fuller and Marshall McLuhan were right. We are all on spaceship Earth. And as Buckminster Fuller said, the universe man, but he didn't say it like a hipster. He said the universe man, the universal man. That era will come. Buckminster Fuller, people don't realize how far he was seen. He's one of the great designers. Like, there should be a giant statue of Buckminster Fuller in the middle of just, I don't know, societies that care. Ideas transcend borders, and borders began from ideas. So borders can always transcend. We can literally wake up and be like, oh my god, we're 8 billion creatures on a rock. We just need an honorable world story as a prototype, and then a march towards the universal era. But this is in the future. Why? Because human beings are like, we are in the cradle of animal instinct. We are still like a child. We have to climb out of this cradle. You know what that means? That means, and I'm learning this every day, you know, that you gotta let go of any idea that is not the greatest potential. You gotta find that staircase beyond the clouds of thought. I don't know who drew this picture. I thought of in each of these talks I'm going to promote artwork. You know, art is art, music. These are the companions. You know, these are the commanding officers of rhetoric. Entering the ultimate presence means there's the presence of the ultimate in the room, and you remember. As Alan Mott said, imagine closing your eyes and oh my god, what's the quote? Imagine going to sleep and never waking up, and now imagine waking up having never gone to sleep. That waking up, having never gone to sleep, I'm trying to connect that idea, parallels of that idea to the cultural program, to the currently active cultural program. The internet is literally like a sign from the universe, okay, advanced creatures, we gave you something. You know, nature went this way. What we fear, we avoid. What we avoid is our downfall. Ignorance is the most dangerous thing on this planet. And an ignorance that still feels it has to be this or that. Like, for how long? Just, okay, stamp this person as good, stamp that person as bad, stamp this person as this, stamp that other person as that. It's like this endless. It's like this endless continuity of a pattern of an it's hopeless, it doesn't update. If it's hopeful, it updates. And so this is the grand mystery of society. People are born trying to fit into it. Yet who's gonna bring in the new? All this new space. You know how many? For me, it was like going to film school was like a horror movie. Because of how much the narratives are repeating, as if the economical sector doesn't care for art, so it's like, yeah, give me whatever that tastes good. It's not caring for its food. Do you know, like media, if media was like, think of TVs as being like the aftermath of like the food entering the stomach, and what is the TV eating? It's consuming ideology, right? And scriptwriters probably know what I mean. So now that it's consuming ideology, right, it's eating like fast food, right? And the reason it's eating fast food is because of the freedom of an ability to see this, at least even if you want to see the same algorithm, see it in a greater context. That means there is two points to advancing any system. You know, first, to understand a system, you got to understand its beginning, you know, and how it's maintained and how it will end. But aside from that, from the central point of some image, just various, what's the plural, axi, different, an axis appears. Excuse me. Just my effort, honestly, is to say that there's something more here. We call it a mind, we don't understand it though. And to comprehend more and more in history, as history marches forward, how all time, like what time was it when the person was coming up with the concept of time? It didn't have an ideological significance, but now that ideological significance is just so embedded, people can't fathom a universe beyond time. James in the chat section says no one cares anymore. They're all distracted and just want money, and to silence those who think for themselves. Yeah, but that's boring, right? Because think of it this way. Think of it that you found yourself in an island of robots, and you found like this remote controller or this crown, robotic crown, and when you wore this robotic crown, all the robots listened to you. Let's imagine you had full control of an island of robots, okay, and you were the king of the island of robots. So it's fine, you control, but you limit the imagination of the species to you, and you're gonna get bored. That means the elitists will philosophically be like, wait a minute, am I stopping 8 billion human beings from making this world into an incredibly advanced place where everybody can enjoy? I mean, like, who cares about control when it's like the theme park is trying to build itself towards the sky? You know, it's like there's something more here. You know? Now, it is true. Now it doesn't look good. That's why I'm like, okay, so how would a designer look at this? A designer would be like, okay, like this is the first prototype. What can we do? This is better than our ancestors. That means we have in the past 250,000 years made a progress from just a creature that, I don't know, was jumping from branch to branch. Now in our minds, we jump from branch to branch of knowledge. You know, they say it's a monkey mind for a reason. Why? Because the perception jumps. In our inner realms, you're a jumper, like that movie. And you know, teleportation is the hardest verb. It's technically a hollow verb. Because it's instant. What happened? You know? Like, what can happen to a portal? It's like, where is the portal? Like, let's say there's a portal to two worlds. The world is in one, world A is in one place, world B is in one place. And there's a portal. So where is that portal? That means the only way there could be a middle means the two are in a bigger third. Civilization is just everywhere on an island, and we gotta find whatever we need to get the species going, you know? Whether you believe in, I don't know, the arbitrary or the non-arbitrary, whether you feel imagination is real or whether you feel reality is imagined. There's a giant, endless, limitless sky above us. What do we do about that? What do we do about the endless? What do we do about the eternal? You know, a very complex idea in metaphysics is that some philosophers have discussed this, that if there is, if we are eternal beings, let's for a moment consider the opposite. We think we're temporary beings and the world is like eternal. The world's going to endlessly happen. We're going to be out of the picture. Now imagine it's the opposite. We are endlessly happening and the world changes. The world is reincarnating through us. We're not reincarnating through the world. The world we are giving the world's karma. The world is not giving our karma. I would say this is metaphysics, where the point comes where why does an eternal being need to transmigrate or continue, or why does an eternal being need to survive? That means if you are everything at once, what is the purpose of the individual? And you see, there's a nullification and mysticism of complete identity. Because the wolf couldn't howl until it saw the full moon. Some truths, even if they remain half known, they still pull you, you know. Civilization is going to, the saviors of civilization are designers. I see it no other way. Design. The issue of civilization is not in nature, because you look at human psychology and the human adaptation adapts to that environment, there you go. That's the cheat code of at how you advance civilization, because the human being adapts to its environment. If you create an advanced environment, the human being would adapt, even if the human being was, let's say, morally in the shadows or morally in the light, of the efficient, or more in the darkness of the inefficient, whichever, but it would still be advanced, right? So the idea is people have to stop thinking about, like, see, what it is we create a story of hope, and that story of hope is heard from all around the planet. Oh my God, imagine people running in the streets, shouting, "Oh my God, an advanced civilization's coming!" So something of that magnitude, where the heart of the living being is like, okay, I am here now. I am here, and the world is the stage. You see, that is the true. I don't want to say it's chaos, but for a cultural entity, I could totally see. Like, imagine you're a person, like you go to your favorite coffee place. You're living in that kind of personality, archetypal relationship with the moment, and then suddenly you come into this point, this sort of mystery. It's as if the sheep were all like, yeah, let's keep going, not realizing they were going towards, factory-owned property. Like, I mean, that's tragic. Yeah. So the notion is that the sheep has to wonder why it's a sheep, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just a universal self-reflection. Do it now or never be it. It's like one lifetime to be truly alive. Now, can we get the species like a sleeping giant waking up from a fragmented collectivity? We are. It's like some poet. I think it was Rumi. He said, "Truth is like a mirror that is shattered, and every bit of that mirror reflects the truth." That means within every being, if through the narrative or through the angle of the soul, every being is. It's as if there's a cubic dimension to you, that whatever happens to the square, the cube is there. So imagine if like a square is like, oh my God, is there something more? And then the square suddenly realizes it's the cube. It realizes there is 5 other dimensions, and it is the 6th. So you find the other realms. Think of it this way, that let's call this neo spirituality. Some people are trying to find their soul. In the future, there will just be abiders, and then their souls find them. You see, there is so much more. Yet, we're just staring at it from a window of language. It is not enough. It has never been enough. A belief cannot be enough. A disbelief, a belief on a belief, and or like that. And there's matter and antimatter. There's belief and anti-belief. Do you believe it? So, it's like, do you disbelieve it? It's like, I disbelieve in you. other path is that, okay, so let me paint a context. Pretty much, the truth of the universe is telling the illusion to abide by the truth. God is pretty much telling an archer what to do. And it's an incredible story. Krishna. The other path is that wherein are stationed the gods presiding over smoke, night, the dark fortnight, and the 6 months of the southward course of the sun. The yogi devoted to action with an interested motive, taking to this path after death, is led by the above gods, one after another, and attaining the luster of the moon, and enjoying the fruit of his meritorious deeds in heaven, returns to this mortal world. For these two paths of the world, the bright and the dark, are considered to be eternal. Proceeding by one of them, one reaches the supreme state from which there is no return, and proceeding by the other, one returns to the mortal world, becomes subject to birth and death once more. So it's like, it's two sides of a coin. And if you enjoy your desire of being something, you will continue to be something. So technically, the Bhagavad Gita is just adding an additional pointer, I find, that we have to build the advanced civilization, dare I say, selflessly. And this is why, love is that's love's part. So the best strategy is to have 8 billion human beings to fall in love, in an unconditional love, so that there's no, let's say, return to this mortal realm, to this side of the coin. So we are unconditional. You know what that means? That means it's as if giving everything and wanting nothing in return, but just going on. Do you know? It would mean pure giving. So in your inner realms, it's as if the world is being itself. When that view is restored, there is a sensitivity to life, but also no longer just a causal cause-effect sort of analysis. That means, if I don't know, it's like the cube knows what the square cannot. So that means, when in Rome, be Roman, a two-dimensional being can never comprehend the three-dimensional by definition. A two-dimensional being can remember itself as a three-dimensional being. So what that means is like this. I don't know the backstory to this picture I've chosen for this episode. Let me see if I can find a narrative. His shadow was a pillar for those before him. He had noticed the staircase to the beyond was there. So you see, like, it's as if something important. You cannot be true until you see that truth to yourself. I think the healthiest strategy is that 8 billion human beings who imagine each human being has a sphere. Their sphere, inside it is their conditioning. They have to get out of their sphere of thought, right? And when they pilot beyond their thought, they notice the presence of the meaningless world. That means it's like after we have stopped fearing, we get over fearing the unknown and fearing emptiness and nothing and absence. When we stop fearing that, then we can work fully with life, right? And anything you don't fear anymore, that means you're open to look and go through. Because ultimately, your heart will either find a noun or a verb. If you become a verb, a river will not become a drop. A river goes to the ocean. But if you remain as a drop, then you will kind of evaporate, and then it means so the reincarnation happens. 8 billion human beings using the concept of advanced communication, and advanced communicators, we start incorporating a multidimensional design in our approach. And the word thinking, believe it or not, I can see the dust on the concept. So that concept has become archaic. We are no longer thinkers. We are the most advanced communication of the natural realm so far. So technically, we are the planet's most advanced communication. Now, we are so advanced that we have self-identified. And now, it's not only the world is happening to itself, and the world is happening as us, but we are happening as ourselves, and we are happening as them. You know? And so what it means is an era of incredible trust where living as minds is completely different than living as bodies. Living as bodies, it's as if the body has to be designed to, in some sense, be drawn to something. You know, it's as if the body is a chemical, and we're in whichever environment it goes, there's a chemical reaction. That means not only there's stimulus in the environment, just things that change in the environment that you start taking in, but it's also like how you notice your mind is processing it. And so this is the part where I would say the ultimate presence comes in, and what it means is when you are done playing the games of the emotionally shackled to the past individual, the future is already there. The future is already here. Just like how when Edison made the light bulb, everybody was like, yo, we could have done this sometime. It takes a lot of energy to be something. If the ideology of it goes, if the person discriminates between their inner realm and their outer realm, and in their inner realm they become detached, that means their inner realm is no longer judging their outer realms. That means your mind doesn't have an opinion until perception arises. And stationing yourself as the watcher of your intelligence, like that's a way of saying the person has stopped chasing the butterfly of truth. They're just being. You're just sitting down among the flowers of nature, the gems, the diamonds of nature. And then the butterfly comes. That's my experience. Totally, I can tell. Think of somebody who has, I don't want to say the term, like a hypersensitivity to design, shape changing in the environment. Now imagine I started noticing how my imagination changes and where it's happening. is one side of the coin of reality. And if all our knowledge is based on how the context, the overall context of the universe is contained, that means instead of endlessly we saying to people like, change yourselves to help the world, it's as if we change the context, the world story, and everybody, it becomes like a new activity to find the advanced human being within. Because you have one lifetime to be it. That means in one format. That means it's as if what can the human being do? Physical activities and non-physical activities. The non-physical activity comes to communication, and communication is limited right now. And let me tell you why. So many kids in the educational system, they are falling asleep in the classroom. I realize this. Because they haven't learned to listen to a film when someone speaks. If you listen to people and you can see a film, first of all, you remember it, but aside from that, you see the picture. That means if you, though I'm telling you, this is such a big deal what I'm saying. Because the future will be like this, you know? That means imagine you read a book. If you read really quickly, it becomes a film, right? Every word you read, there's just like Sadhguru I mentioned earlier, he said the content of your mind is not your choice. You read the word apple in the book, in your mind space, you notice an apple, or you saw an apple in your childhood, let's say, right? You see that apple or whatever, right? So when you read that word, so now imagine instead of reading words, it's speech. So imagine it's like we had reading being empty piece of paper, words on it. Now speech is being empty space, silence, and then there being sounds in it. And so when those sounds can be seen as a film, the person, all you gotta do, I'm telling you, is just sit down, and even if you want to, this should become optional in the education system, you can close your eyes and go into a listening mode where you're listening to someone, your eyes are closed, but you're seeing a film in your inner realm, right? And so this happens, of course, with music. Anybody who's been to a concert, like the music revives a film. And it's like the soul is the director, the mind is the actor, and the body, the poor body, is the PA. Oh my god. The body's like, I gotta do this mind's instructions of free will all the time. It's like, yeah, you have to. That's how you get into the business, And then they say, and then the mind's like, okay, I gotta act. Okay, I gotta act my part. I gotta play the part all the time, be perfect all the time to the society that if I'm not perfect won't accept me. In the void we're all judging. Have you noticed? In emptiness we have become gods of truth, It's like my question, if like my voice could echo to the ears of like the ancient gods, I would say, have you noticed emptiness yet? We are all efforts of a genetical pattern that strangely, through the process of evolution, has become a subject to itself. An object became a subject, whoa. And it became a subject in a very long time, and there was even seeded the design in nature. Who knew nature, like flowers, it's like at some point would inside a creature bring forth like a developed brain, an advanced brain. So So you see, it's as if the advancements of nature have echoed into another dimension where we have awakened as that dimension, right? So it's as if like the eyes of your eyes are watching your eyes being chaos and order, the dualism of the realm. And whose responsibility is your advancement? Like, that's the biggest question. I remember, when I was young, with my cousins, I watched the movie Godfather. And then it was like for a week, we were all acting like show me respect, show me you know? And so there was this idea of the family or whatever, But, what about the human family, right? Isn't it weird that we care for specific genetics but not for overall all genetical contributions to the how the world has echoed so far. The restoration of the unknown. As a global journey, that means we have come to a problem so giant that we need 8 billion human conscious minds to come and have a contribution in its design. We have to get a species to care for how its mind's freedom is instant, its body's freedom requires to be worked. So as long as you have a body, it's like in a moving and changing world, that's the nature. One must honor that, as if the body is a comrade on the battlefield, on a multidimensional battlefield where your eyes never were shaped. And so it's as if a collective being roars, but no individual hears it. Before I end off, I would like to read an essay I wrote. This essay is called Smile at Beauty. And it's from this philosophical work, series of essays I wrote on the source of language. I don't know how to term them, they're like poetic essays. Experiential justifications of the world are also incomplete, for one can never explain what they are being, especially in a changing universe. This means the attention to your moment as your moment This means the attention of your moment as your moment is more than what's in your moment is an idea beyond comparable belief. The world needs more experiential adjustment than linguistic adjustment, even though great scholars and shamans have suggested that a society evolves as much as its language does. If new ideas are not being added, are we just reliving the highs of the old? Ask yourself how often you do something you have never done before. What does a new consciousness imply? As far as the influence of the concept of a world or being in a world has on the maneuvering of the conscious attention, if reality was playfully based on the metaphor of a multidimensionally void onion, we could perhaps say the first layer of the onion involves everything we have ever known, such as mind, body, speech, and the movements of the observable universe, and we have not peeled through yet. Your moment's intelligence can be comparable to the space that is present within and without all dimensions. Your conscious awareness throughout the day is like a crystal ball rolled across many colored cloths. The true presence of the crystal ball is untouched by the colors of reality. Every space your attention goes on, if you notice, it becomes. You could be on the verge of contemplating the true interrelation between quantum mechanics and general relativity until suddenly the lady at the bank asks you for your name and your whole universe spontaneously has to readjust to the focal point of consciousness, and you need a few seconds to remember your name. The mind is a powerful tool, not a machine to be opened. If you're on a boat and instead of using the boat to get to your destination, you start taking the boat apart to see what it is made of, you will be only left with drowning conclusions. Whether you are a Jiva Mukti or a Vedaya Mukti, divine presence maintains all personalities in accordance to the nature of your truest and sincerest intentions as a being of manifestation. Regardless of how godly or ungodly one may be considered to be, the world equally turns for all of us. A cosmic being never needed to be distorted by limited personalities bound to the surface of a pebble. Living in humble personalities breeds great work ethic. Where was I? But if there's no clarity of vision, why live in an unclear world? Why jump from a plane of ignorance without a parachute of insight? Sincerity attracts divine gifts and reminds you of your true nature before you have to do anything in this life as a doer. Be mindful of language so your mind doesn't get full on language. All symbols have the meaning our eyes give them. And our eyes abide by the true nature and natural state of our consciousness. Breathe clarity, for it is your moment of being. Every moment is the state of our consciousness. Every moment is the greatness of universal intelligence expressing itself. So what does it mean for the world when the awareness of the origin of consciousness is experientially beyond language? So what does that imply about the source of language and the silence of the origin of the universe? Not only is your face beautiful, but your whole existence is beautiful. Patience is the brother of wisdom. Tolerance is always a better choice. When you truly be you, you will also see you have always been the universe. But better spelled in quotations YOUNIVERSE. You are your universe. So does this mean free will reviews are an illusion and that no man's mind can truly evaluate the cosmic mind? Do the blood cells in your veins know they are red in your eyes? God is one of man's first greatest attempts at contemplating the whole nature of the universe and the story of his life as an inseparable activity. God was seen for the first time as an idea that allowed the intelligence within all phenomena to be the same as the presence of the moment. The integrativeness that the concept of God has shown through the devotional experience is a freedom of an open mind with the whole universe and God being by your side. Life is great when you are God's movement collective forces of the universe for the first time in human history allowed for a the collective forces of the universe for the first time in human history allowed for a cosmic personality to emerge. This was very humanitarian. One can even say in introspection that the essence of the purpose of religion was to plant the seed of faith in man, so when he truly opened his eyes, the entirety of existence would be looking back. Bodies have separate realities, mutually dependent upon one another. The mind is one ultimate reality. It is also expression as the ultimate reality. The fact that all occurrence in a physical reality was God's movement, including how the person's eyes opened, suggests the expansion of man's mind beyond material inquiries. The candle is melting. Discover the light of your omniscience. You are the God in your eyes. The God in your eyes is eternity's reminiscence of all the temporal memories ever had in one instant. The ape did not just stand up, but the reference of consciousness also evolved. What that means is that after the first human beings realized they were individuals in the reflection of a settled pond, the next experimental adjustment by nature was for the individual to acknowledge the presence of the world behind him in the reflections of sensory perception. So early human beings thought they were people in a world. Then they tried to interpret the meaning of all of it. Then religion developed. Then the world of religion within the world of man began being criticized by a new world voiced in modern times. This is when science developed. Now we are at a point where the species is evolving beyond the forced subjective realities and justifications that language provides. And the expression of an open mind is to provide the ultimate freedom within all dimensions of categorized experience. It doesn't matter if language is the greatest structure ever built. Your true intelligence is like space in the sky. You step out of the man-made invention of language and to truly experience your vision beyond any ideas on what vision means. Okay, where was I? Raw experience is a gold mine of wisdom. How do the omniscient walk? Could thoughts be alive just like how we could be a living thought? The mystery of the source of language is the ultimate realization of who you are. Not everyone wonders about the philosophy of the moon in the eyes of the sun, in the steady distant gaze of man. If a planet was your sibling, how would you feel? If a galaxy was your lover, how would your future dance in your arms? Some have even wondered if laziness can lead to enlightenment, but only self-awareness can do so. How do you feel about consciousness and daily existence? Is it something to, in quotations, think about? Abstraction can carry us only so far, then divine intuitive wisdom is required. It's a great opportunity and chance to realize you can communicate with the world as you're being the world. Experience is a multidimensional phenomena and quality in the void of nature. Once your physical body fractally becomes the presence of a cosmic design, every atom that is you is simultaneously present in being every other sector of space. A person wondering what imagination is like the brush in a painter's hand wondering about the vision of the painter before drawing. The sophistication of the difference between the realities of a brush and a painter suggests how much there's a difference in multidimensionality and intelligence between the two views. You can touch your forehead with your thumb and feel the center of galaxies. Life is all about journey, duty, joy, and conscious presence. The beautiful thing about your enlightenment is that you realize it is your own unique vision of the light in your eyes, being reality. The impulse to connect is a God-given gift. In my childhood, I remember a young Muslim boy who didn't know how to pray yet, and every night before going to sleep for years to come would say the zikr, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I'm referring to my childhood, how, like in Iran, I was afraid of the dark, and I had asked my mother at the age of 7, like, what should I do? And my mother, there was a religious dimension to her, and she told me, say this. So I'm just referring to that here. 7 times, as if devotion was knocking on God's door 7 times. Every time there is communication that is naturally, sincerely, honestly, and spontaneously developed, it's as if Thor's hammer is being slammed full force on the ego of identity. How different would the world be if all toys were shaped like Buddha statues? There's only one presence of intelligence here, and it is being all of us. The effect is simultaneously being the cause. When it is said, go within, this implies that you can become aware of the essence of the cosmos because you're a part of it, and your hands separate from your body. Is your body separate from your mind? Is the mind's essence the moment's absolute being? A poet of the cosmos writes poetry as the whole moment. Some could even say that if you just spontaneously, let's say, open your eyes right now and the world began at this point with no past, you find the guidance of your journey to be the greatest insight. People don't need self-help books. They just need to realize, they just need to recalibrate to their true nature. Your true nature is also the ultimate truth of this nature. Some nights I wonder why the world looks the way it does, and always after I close my eyes the problem is solved. Whether you're an old school writer typing like a machine gun, or you're here I'm referring to Charles Bukowski. He had this thing where he would say there were old school writers, and he would write so much that the sound of the typewriter was like as if like bullets. Like, I don't know how to say it. You know, I don't know how to make typewriter noise, but like the sound effect issue. But anyways, or you're a commentator on the nature of your experience in this current moment. The world is not a concept and never was. Who am I speaking to? The sight of your sight that is the bliss of this complete moment. Beauty smiles through truth. Don't live a life that is a vague idea. Experience every moment with utter involvement and brilliance of intensity. Don't forget, the point of this book is not that it is a certain point to make per se. This work is written to show you how your eyes are working. You're a divine miracle of spontaneous conscious existence. That means if we were to go back into the depths of our mind, where the origin of the Big Bang happened, we would notice if a universe has begun and intelligence sparked it. This doesn't mean we all start wearing prayer beads and stop cutting our hair. It suggests that the intelligence of the universe never really goes anywhere. When time is found to be void through a temporal gaze, the experiential awareness to how the universe never began or ended is an eternal realization. That means there's nothing to learn after the phoenix of enlightenment has resurrected from the ashes of ignorance. Beyond demise, your eyes are a great beacon, carried by starlight. You are your best shot at living a great life. That means don't think education is just in school. Consider it so that from the origin of your existence you have been learning how reality happens. The polymaths knew, even though there are many branches of knowledge, the true intelligence is the whole tree. Wow, where was I? For how many eons should we entertain the idea of an evolving monkey jumping from branch to branch? What branch of quantum physics wonders about the seed planted beyond time and space? Why didn't Einstein call it time space instead of space time? Who has the space for time? Who has the time for space? As humorous as it may be, the answer to the last two questions is the same. For whether you watch your wristwatch or you watch your consciousness of self, either way, the observer within must abide by the truth of experience that provides the greatest witnessing capacity of the brain, which is how the God beyond words was every neutron running late to work. The natural world is a beautiful gift to those wise ones who have felt the great winds of change in their breath. Beyond words, who are you really? Could the use of language pre-exist before its meaning? Is the spontaneity of intelligence of sound a divine mystery? Why did oh my god, how long is this? No, okay, no, it's pretty long. No, okay, we're getting to that. Why did the energy of the universe start even moving? Smile at beauty, for you were forever a part of it. Do not envy any phenomena. We're all drops in the same ocean. We're all existentially equal. A quiet mind and self-awareness is enough for self-realization. Is science the ignorance of God? Is God the ignorance of science? When the bilateral, symmetrical, dualistic nature of the mind is confronted in that moment, any story of an ideal will face extinction, for the moment never changed. Knowing is instantaneous. Belief is conditional and conditioned. Joy, bliss, love, compassion, devotion are all instantaneous occurrences. Do you need to plan for years to fall in love or rise in love with someone? Or is it just the spontaneous knowing? When the goodness grinds you the first time you step in a club, there comes the realization that the beauty we think is a totally different kind of beauty than the beauty of realizing every concept of life you have. One can say, and that's, I've written that in caps, one can say it's as if we all need to crawl out of the holes of our early indoctrination and conditioning to see in the vast openness of our minds. Eternity can't get old. So has the concept of death, in quotations, made the mind forget him. So has the concept of death, in quotations, made the mind forget infinity. Gifted by grace, beauty is the smile of heaven on earth. Be still and close your eyes for one moment and tell me if you're not being all existence at once. How far does the light beam penetrate the depths of the ocean of your mind? The wonder to be a galaxy is how you are one. Cause and effect are like the wings of a plane. If the pilot does not consciously navigate the plane of existence, the reality will find itself being a plane heading for a tunnel where the wings don't fit. Direct experience can amplify to such a revelation where the presence of intelligence is the witness of all thoughts. On externality propounded upon by the deliverance of the senses. Life is amazing, and behind your eyes that amazement is everywhere. A being free beyond thought is a great moment of the witnessing of conscious creation. By the end of this book, you too will have written your own book. Don't be shy to communicate. Don't be shy to communicate. Okay. Sorry guys, I think there could be a typo here. It says don't be shy to communicate with me. It is always inspired by great collaboration. Always inspired by great collaborations and vision.
I don't know, guys. There's a typo here. Have you noticed Thor looks like an elf but fights like a dwarf? Yeah, I think this is the unedited manuscript, guys. I'm reading. There could be some sentences from. Could a lord really lose his ring? The greatest wisdom is to abide in natural presence and being comfortable with the intelligence of the world and its unknown administrations. Brew tea through beauty. Let us, let us not keep society waiting for peace. Let society be at peace now. Nature knows more than an individual can. Is God an idea or the enlightenment of a divine reunion? The moment is awake. Are you? Smile at the beauty of your own truth. And the essay ends. You know, and I feel the conclusion of the idea is that we will witness everything as everything. And fear will go extinct before we do. I'm saying this. The species is the concept of thinking is honestly going to, again, it's going to be the new model. It's just like unknown mind moving known body. So we start as an unknown observer of a known life. And so, all from that angle, I can totally see a completely new educational reform. There's so many ways the world can move. You know, it's like our brains are like they're taking in the world and like recreating it to themselves to survive. Like this, it's like this the DNA has like you know miracles up its sleeves, not tricks, miracle. But anyways, there's also this concept I've shared of the pilots of consciousness, and the pilots of consciousness are human beings that are done with the belief or disbelief game. We are experiences. Direct experience has the unknown, direct experience has the greater than sign rather than known indirect, you know, ideology. It's like becoming fascinated with how you don't know how you don't know. And of course, like, what can human beings do on a rock in the middle of nowhere? We can just communicate, express communication, receive communication, or use whatever communication there is to build something. And if we can build an incredible backup system, imagine living in an advanced civilization, and any person makes a mistake, there's no such concept as a mistake because the civilization is too advanced for that. The civilization has a sort of multidimensional spectrum. That means it becomes way more fascinating to see dimensions to people rather than to think one experience of a person is them, right? That means it's like this person has revealed these dimensions of himself, you know, that person has revealed that dimension, right? And so because there is the whole inner realm and the outer realm, the inner world and the outer world, and the inner world, you require to realize that you are a conscious agent. You're a conscious agent, and you can input, you can evoke your mind, right? So free will is here to do something with the senses, you know. Somebody free will from free will, you know. But we need free will to be able to free will. thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. I am going through a complete shift of wondering where to take these talks and what other dimension of them to work on. So there is no specific guidelines, just generally